Hello, and welcome to Shortcut Up CNC. Today we're going to go over a model being entered into a project and adjusting the model to the material thickness within the thickness of the material. All right, we have a 12 by 12 project here, and the material thickness is 0.75. I'm going to go to the clip art and I'm going to choose the eagle head here and I'm going to center it in the project. Okay, now where did it go? There we go. All right, let's make sure we only got one. All right, now we're going to center that to the project. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a boundary to the model. In the 3D model tools, this tool right here, it creates a vector boundary for your model. There we have a vector boundary. In fact, I'm going to move the eagle head and there you'll see the vector boundary. Now I'll say undo to that move. It'll put the eagle head back in position where it was initially. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go check the position of the model within the material. Right now, the model is all the way near the top of the material. We have all this excess material below. This can be used as a base to the model, or you can just adjust the material thickness. That gives you the capability right up here. The model thickness is near a 1/2 inch. So we can actually change this to a 1/2 inch and go back to that. And you'll see now that it has very little at the bottom underneath the model. Now, what we can do is we can switch that by taking the slider and that make that the excess. Now the model excuse me, is sitting right directly to your table. Now, if you don't want that, you can adjust it to center. That way you've got a little bit of material below the model and you've got some excess across the top. There we go. We're pretty close to the, if we divided the two evenly, you can put it directly center. But anyway, that's close enough, and we say okay to that. Now, if I wanted to make a frame, say for instance, around this model head, and I'm not going to worry about layers right now or putting anything on layers. We're going to put it all on the same layer for the time being. This is just for show purposes only anyway, so let's continue on with this. We say close to that, and I'm going to adjust that to the center also. And I'm going to go ahead and offset that inwards. This is the easy way. Rather than making another rectangle, you can just offset the rectangle to the inside. Of course, with the other, using the square, you can add a little radius to it. So let's go back to this here, and we'll add a radius internally, which gives it a nice little curve on the inside. And let's see. It's actually going to add it to this one right now. There we go. That's kind of steep. We'll say undo to that. And we'll do the radius internal again, and we'll change the size to, let's say, 0.75. and apply. Now that looks a little better. And we're going to close this. Now we're going to offset that inwards, say 1/4 of an inch. And I want the sharp corners. I want to maintain that. And I want it to select a new offset vector that it creates. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this one and delete it. And I'm going to make it without. There we go. Now we have our frame. Now we're going to make a pocket on the inside here. So we grab both of those vectors and we go to the pocket tool. And of course, I need to know what depth I want to go in relations to the model. So what we'll do is we'll go to the model component and we'll check the base height or shape height of the model. It's 4724. So that's what I want to use for a depth on the model. Of course, you may not want to go that deep with your cutting. So let's just erase that for a second. I'm just giving you ideas what you can look at and various ways of being able to do the adjustments for the pocket in relations to the model. I'm going to go ahead and create a pocket and I'm going to just make it 0.25. And the two tools I'm using is a 1/8 bit and a let's change these. We're going to remove that. Well, actually, that's pretty good because you got a lot of tight corners in here. So I'm going to bring that 16th bit back. It takes a little longer cutting it this way. Drag my I used it over on the other screen the last time around, so let's bring it back over here where we can see it. Okay, 16th. All right, now I'm going to say calculate to that. Of course, it wants the vectors again. So I highlight my vectors, okay, and then say calculate. There we go. Now it's got that. Define. I'm going to preview it. Excuse me. And of course, it takes a little while because I'm on the highest quality for the preview. When you're first setting it up, it's always best just to go to standard and it'll go real quick through the tool pathing. And once you get everything set with your tool paths and all, you can change it over to the preview quality simulation view and then view it again using that setup. And what I mean by that is this here, preview simulation quality. I've got it on max, change it to standard if you want to go real quick. So there we have the cutout around the model and in the inside of the frame. So now what I want to do next is I want to set up a tool path for the model. So we'll use a roughing toolpath 3D, and I'm going to use the selected vector technique, which would be this vector around the head of the model. I want to use a 125 inch boundary, which will extend it out away from the model a bit, 1/8 of an inch away from it. And then I want a machining tolerance of 40 thousandths remaining on the model for the finished tool path, so it has something to work with. So let's see, we got to highlight the model by holding the shift key down along with the vector, and we say calculate to that, and then we'll preview that. And of course, again, it's going to take its time because it's on the highest quality preview. And we're going to find that the model is going to cut deeper than the 2.5 of our pocket. So there's two things you can do to adjust that. That's to move the model upwards, or the shape height, change the shape height of the model, or you can cut the pocket deeper. There's three different ways you can make the adjustments there. So here you see the outside, it's cut. In fact, we'll do the finished tool path, and then you'll be able to see it a lot clearer of what I'm talking about. So now we'll go to the finished tool path, go back to the 2D view. I want to use the same vector and model, which is already highlighted because you used it in the roughing tool path. You want to use the same thing in your finish. I'm using a tapered ball nose, 5.4 degree angle on the taper of the shaft, and then it's a 16th ball diameter. And so that's kind of small, so it's going to take a while to carve. And I want to use the selected vector. I want to use the same boundary offset of 1/8 of an inch. Calculate. This is going to make it real nice and smooth across the top of the model, because I'm using a very tight offset. I mean, oh gosh, what's the word? Okay, we go to the 3D toolpath, edit. The word I want is step over. Very shallow step over of 10%. And it's a very small ball nose tool that we're using. So we go ahead and calculate that again, being I was in there. See the outside? That's the depth of the model itself. So it's deeper than the 2.5 we used for the pocket. So we'll go ahead and preview that visible. And you see it's taking its time, carving around and from the center out. I'm not using the raster. I'm using the other technique used for that particular function. I tend to like this process better than the raster technique. That's my own preference. You may find that the raster is better for you and your tooling or machine setup. But you can see the fine using a small ball nose on your finished tool path, it gets into the nice little crevices and everything, makes it real sharp, beautiful image. And there again, you see the model thickness is deeper than the actual pocket. Now, to find out what you can do, one of two things. You can check the eagle head in the components, or a quick way, which I find is easy, is you take and put your cursor over the top of here, and you look in this corner over here on the Z. It will tell you how much material was removed. 485. So what we'll do is we can change the first pocket, or we can change the eagle head. Of course, you got to do some calculation to bring the eagle head upwards in the material. I find just increasing the pocket to 485, calculate, is an easy way of doing it, but you may not. This makes it stand proud, going deep at the same shape height of the model. But you may not want it standing that proud. But we'll see what it looks like here after we preview that pocket. Okay, there it's cutting. There it's cutting to the actual shape height of the model. Of course, there again, you may not want to be that deep with your pocket, but look how proud that eagle is sitting atop the material there. So there you've seen some adjustments that can be made to the model or to the actual thickness of the material to shape the eagle's head or any particular model based on its shape height. Of course, the shape height here is 4724, but when we did the actual model, you saw that it went to 485. So there are some variances that you got to look at, play with, and don't be afraid to play with it. I mean, you got the feature undo and redo, and you're not hurting anything here. All you're doing is playing, looking at different things. Thank you for watching Shark Cut Up CNC.